StockMiner.com here in the beautiful Black Hills of South Dakota. I'm your StockMiner, Brian Johnson. We saw a little bit of a bounce today in the markets, and that might continue actually back into tomorrow. We'll see if we can't get a slight or another push up yet coming into the end of the week to try to hold some of these weekly levels. That'll be something we'll be talking about. But you can see there's a big gap up today, starting the day with a big move up, very indicative of an options expiration week. Don't always get this kind of volatility, but we do consistently get this kind of volatility during options expiration. This is why I always recommend that holding Monday into Tuesday, I'm never quite so scared of. But holding past that point overnight always makes me a little bit cautious. A lot of times I'll drop my position sizes, maybe take profits if and when I can get them on a Tuesday type of a thing, just because you never know what you're going to wake up to the next day. Now, we didn't see the real volatility till today, where we woke up to a big gap up, small pullback, by the end of the day kind of back up to where we had started the day at. So you can see it as evidenced here by the charts itself. Now what we did is we gapped right back up where? Into overhead resistance. See how it held and held and held and held, and at the end of the day just able to pop its head above that. So we might see a little bit of maybe this is some sort of a ABC correction, could be one of a number of things. I don't want to speculate at this point, but it looks like we are looking for maybe some potentially higher prices again tomorrow. If we get back below, let's say 11.7 and especially 11.6, that's all blown off the table for me at that point. But pushes tomorrow above that 11.8 mark, you might see this thing creep its way back into 11.9ish or so. And if you have been short or are still short on any of these moves down, this might be a good time to look to take some profits coming into tomorrow. Otherwise, the trend still seems good. So overall, we might see a little bit of a bounce, but I'm not convinced that this is the big move back up yet in the markets. There's still more for the bulls to do before I'm ultimately convinced. We just now came back into these overhead levels of resistance, and we'll see if they will hold coming in tomorrow. These are my areas, as I said, to be watching for your entries in the morning. Let's see what the overnight trading gives us. If we can get a nice kind of a break-even start to the day, I think that gives us a good opportunity to get some great entries based off tomorrow's trading. It's very difficult when you get a big gap up or a big gap down to make a move one way or the other. You just never know what you're going to see. So that's why it's important to know what you're doing within the markets, and more importantly, how to trade these gaps one way or the other after they happen. So the first step is always to just let the markets kind of give it some time early in the morning to let the markets decide, and then watch your plays from there. Don't just jump into the beginning of the day and hope for the best. It's not how the professionals do it. Stack the odds in your favor. NASDAQ here coming up into also this same, but it did not break above this little 20. See the little 20 on the 60-minute chart we've been looking at? Did not break that. So this was a little bit weaker than the rest of the indices today, but look for pushes back above this area if you want to start getting a little bit long the NASDAQ side of things. You can see the bigger tumble it's had coming way back down into these really, really low levels of support down here and holding nicely. Today with the big gap up, saw a move back down to the downside here, holding, as I said, below the 20-period moving average on the 60-minute charts. Now overall, sideways kind of the rest of the day, and still looking for maybe some more upwards motion coming into tomorrow. Why? Because on the weekly we have these upper levels to either A, retest, or B, take back if you're a bull. If you're a bull, you want to see this retested. Right now we could be in, like I said, some sort of an A, B, C type of a correction. That C could put us right back into these levels, and it'll be very curious to watch and see if the bulls do try to reclaim this by the end of tomorrow. If not, we then have our first close below the 20-week moving average on the NASDAQ, which has not been seen since back here in late August time frame. That's a long time. So we'll see if we don't get that close below these areas coming in tomorrow. Those are your bigger areas to watch for sure on the NASDAQ. SPX 60 also doing the same, kind of putting in, if you want to, getting it back above the 20-period moving average on the 60-minute chart, which is what we saw on the Dow, but getting back into what could be An inverse head and shoulders? Yeah, I mean, I can pretend that's what this could be right down here. Whether it's valid or not is anybody's guess, but it's certainly something to be watching. Any pushes back above that 1280-ish mark could give you some opportunity to maybe play it back into some of these upper levels of 1290 to 1295. From a daily perspective, you can see us still holding. Upper resistance held again today. Trend still looks pretty good, but that doesn't mean we can't see a couple days of a little of bounce before moving with the higher trend again. This will be the more interesting quote-unquote bounce, in my opinion, for the bulls. I'll be doing a lot more of that with my subscribers over the next couple weeks, talking really deep about what we're going to be watching and why we need to be watching this particular bounce. This could be very, very telling. But right now we've got to get back up and above these resistance levels here at 12. We're going to call it 1276, 1275. We saw a little bit of that today, but not able to hold it by the time it was all over with. So these are your moves tomorrow to be watching. If you are bullish, you need to see this thing work its way back up and over into these higher areas. Now, the internals today were not bad from a bull standpoint. They did a pretty good job, internally wise, of making this thing push itself to the upside. But we need consistent movement, not only from the bulls, but from the internals to see this thing really grab hold and for the rest of the market to pull it along. Going on to the VIX daily, you can see we came back down 10% today, but we're still up in these overhead levels. Looking at the weekly, we got 1 day left, but it does certainly look at this point like we could see a nice strong close above the 50 before it's all over with. So here we are stuck between the 50 and the 200. But closes above the 50 only adds strength to the bear's case. Is it bad if it drops back down tomorrow? No, not necessarily. As long as it'll stay above these areas. I like it to be above 1920 or so, and it has stayed above there, and you can see what's led from that direction. All bearishness, fear in the markets. So if this drops tomorrow, not a big deal to me. It's where it closes tomorrow. That'll be of great interest coming into tomorrow night's close. So here was the channel we were in. We dropped out of it. We came back to retest it, and look, Apple could not get itself back up and over these upper levels. Had a beautiful trade for you guys. Let's see, today's Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. If you watch my video on Tuesday, this break below the 337-ish area took you right back into a nicely marked area of support to the downside. I hope you guys that follow these, if you like Apple, I hope you're following by putting some of these levels on your charts, because it worked out perfectly. Was not able to get a video done for you guys yesterday, just did not have the time, but shouldn't have needed it. Now you can see, if you have these marked on your charts, where you could have been looking for potential profits, and this would have led to a very nice $8 to $10 profit just yesterday alone. Now today it was up, but overall really nowhere. I mean, just kind of moving sideways. Wasn't able to eat up all of the losses it had from yesterday. So breaks below 340 or 337 led to some very nice profits in Apple yesterday. Today, a little bit tougher to trade. It was very volatile. Certainly up and down, you can tell by the wicks. But by the close, we're really just kind of sideways overall. Not reclaiming any of the bigger losses it had. Watch Apple into tomorrow. See if there's any kind of strength that returns to it. It's going to want to try to reclaim and hold above for sure this 20-week moving average. We saw the dip below it, but you can see the big move today only put it back up and above, and these are all the levels I'm watching now on some of the bigger stocks. This one in particular. Let's see if it'll hold this 332-ish area by the end of tomorrow. FAS 60-minute was, of course, up ever so slightly. Well, I shouldn't say ever so slightly. It was about 1%, or it was about a $1 move, which is a 3% move. But overall, you can see the gap up, the move down, the move back up. Very difficult to trade this unless you know what you're doing from an intraday standpoint. Putting in a little bit of a sideways candle. I don't know if I'd call that a hammer at this point, but it is sideways chop action. Still stuck between the larger areas of 27 and 29, which are my bigger areas to get long and short. FAS doing then the opposite. Gap down, run up, move back down. More importantly, both FAS finishing above the 20 period and FAZ finishing below the 20 period on their 60-minute charts. So looks like we might be in for a little further pullback here. As I said, this could have been the start of a wave here. Could be into a 1, 2, 3 move down, A, B, C move down. Point being, any breaks below that 43 certainly wouldn't keep me away from maybe taking a little bit of an intraday short. I'm not sure I want to hold these over the weekend. So, for you day traders or people that want some opportunity tomorrow, you can see the consolidation that we're seeing yet again in the financials. Go figure. Very, very common for us to see that. But breaks below 43 and breaks above 45 are your entries, long and short. From the daily perspective, it wants to and needs to hold this blue line for me. I'd really like to see this line up here hold. You can see we've had this sideways consolidation chop moving us up and now back down and sideways overall. I do like this from a bull standpoint. Why? Because we have not closed below this blue line here. We get back below 42 and ultimately close below 42 tomorrow. That'll be the area that'll be a lot less bullish on FAZ. We need it to hold back above this area if you want to be and continue to be bullish on FAZ. Otherwise, back above 46 and back below 40. Oh boy, yeah, 40 for me to the short area in the bigger picture if you want to get in and hold. However, I like what I'm seeing still from a bull standpoint. If we move down tomorrow, I'm not scared. I just don't want it to close back below that 42-ish area and ultimately back in this channel. That's what you want to be watching very closely tomorrow if you like to play these financial ETFs. All right, guys, that'll do it for me today. We will be back with you again tomorrow. Watching these levels I've given you now should give you some great opportunities at some potential trades coming into the end of the week. So we saw the futures contracts roll over. We're going to see a bunch of options contracts roll over. And we'll start a new, hopefully normal week, if you want to consider it normal, into tomorrow. Okay, we'll see you again tomorrow. It is, and I want to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm not Irish, I'm almost full-blood German actually. But I did celebrate by having a big bowl of Lucky Charms this morning. So you'll be happy to know that I am celebrating the Irish. And I am wearing green. I don't think it was by design, but I do happen to have green on. So all of you know that I am wearing green in support. I'll call it in support of St. Patrick's Day. You can't pinch me. I hope you all have a very good day. For those of you that might partake in some of that green beer, that tends to be very popular on this particular day. All of it in moderation. I want to make sure you're back here tomorrow for the video. See you guys then. Bye.